Well, hello,
Hello.
good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Buddhist Biohacker. My name is Lisa. As always, I am your host and your mystic guide. And we are back today. I missed everybody so much from last week, and we are back with a brand new guest. So I would like to welcome with us Danné Mykietyn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here and spending the afternoon with you and chatting about brain health and mental wellness.
Oh, I'm so excited about this conversation and really excited to get to know you and to share you with the audience. And for everybody who's joining in the live, as always, please share where you're from. We love that in the chat. Also, share your questions and your comments. And, I usually do one word about how you're feeling, but how about we do one word about how your month has gone so far? Because April's almost over. Geez, already. It's almost
Incredible.
May. I know, it's so fast. This time compression is just crazy. So
Yeah.
anyway, so just tell us how your month's been going. That's what I want to hear today. But Danné, I want to start out first by having you dive right into your story. I want to hear your story because I did some reading about it and everything, and I'm just really excited for you to share your experiences.
Well, thank you, Lisa. My journey into brain health actually began with my daughter. I have a healthcare background in preventative dentistry, and I was injured in an automobile accident when I was 4 months pregnant with her. And as a result, we noticed she would have kind of these daydreaming episodes when she was around 2 years old. And at 5 years old, I knew she had ended up having a seizure because she walked into our wall oven in our home. And through that process of her being diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 5, having petit mal seizures, a number of the drugs that are used for controlling seizures in children and adults are the actual antipsychotic drugs that they use in mental health for individuals diagnosed with bipolar or schizophrenia. Well, I had been trained through university education and my healthcare background in pharmacological studies, had no idea the impact that medication or drugs had on individuals until I experienced it through my daughter. The first medication that they used made her psychotic. I had this happy-go-lucky 5-year-old child that just was on top of the world every day and would have moods that were up and down and all over the place. So hence, going forward, it was trial and error. That's how pharmaceutical drugs are administered. Trial and error. The third medication had the least amount of side effects to manage her seizures and, so that she could get on with normal daily living. So after that, I had worked with the Epilepsy Association. And I was different from the day I was born. I always looked into things more thoroughly. There's got to be a better pathway, a better way to do things. And I've always looked at the holistic approach or the integrative health approach. And so at age 12, my daughter still has abnormal brainwave activity, but she's off all pharmaceutical medications. So that's where my journey began in brain health. And then for my own personal journey, I had my first spiritual emergency at the age of 40. I had a number of circumstances that happened in my life. I went through a divorce after 16 years of marriage. I had sustained a concussion playing women's hockey. I played women's hockey in Calgary, Alberta. And I had a colleague in my professional association that challenged my license to practice. And I claimed personal bankruptcy through the process of my divorce, all in the span of less than 6 months.
Holy
so
cow.
hence I had a breakdown.
Yeah,
or
no kidding.
Or a spiritual emergency. As our culture here in the Western world is the only culture in the world that looks at a psychosis as pathology. All the other countries in the world, if you were to have a psychological breakdown or psychosis, they view it as a gift and you're taken aside and mentored by the elder or the spiritual shaman of that culture or community, because one day your sensitivities and gifts can be used in order to help your community or your tribe. So it's very interesting in the different perspective. And there's an excellent documentary that was put together by Phil Borges. It's a movie documentary called Crazy Wise. And he goes through all this cultural experience and cultural differences between the Western world and the other areas around the world. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're bringing up is really valuable and interesting, timely too, because I'm writing an article right now for my blog about spiritual schizophrenia. Because, you know, when you experience any kind of awakening or shift, just like the archetype of the Tower card in the tarot, you go through this collapse process, and it can create this feeling of being crazy, or like you said, experiencing some kind of psychoses, right? Because you're going through this powerful experience. And you know, I got to be careful with what I say on YouTube, but medicating that experience doesn't necessarily bring you through the experience or allow you to create expansion from the experience. It oftentimes can mute it and mute the inner work that needs to get done. So what you're bringing up is really important.
Exactly. And through my experience, you know, being hospitalized a number of times through that process, that's exactly what the Western world does, is they believe that there's no cure for you. You have a chemical instability. There's something chemically going on in your brain. There's no cure. You're going to be on this medication for a lifetime. Well, it was my experience with my first spiritual emergency or breakdown that I was placed on a medication that actually one of my daughter was placed on. And she had really bad side effects. The side effects that I experienced were, after being about 6 months on, it totally flatlined you. You have no feelings, happy or sad. It just, what I call flatlining. It's like you're dead. Yeah. And so that's not healthy in my opinion either. And so it was through that process of my own personal experience and my experience in, I call it psychiatric hotel to make a joke out of it, but it's definitely not a nice hotel to be in. But you know, I searched for better ways. You know, why is this happening to me? What's going on? And through that process, I discovered the works of an amazing scientists and amazing brain health doctors and scientists from around the world that mentored me in this area of and using a nutrient approach to balancing your biochemistry, but allowing them to work optimally. We're born at conception, our biochemistry is determined for our lifetime, believe it or not. And some of the deficiencies that we have in certain nutrients or overloads in other things can have a huge impact on our mental health and behavioral health. So that's kind of where my research began with regards to this journey and adventure that I've been taking in brain health and mental wellness.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great segue, because my next question is about the steps. But before I do, just welcome to everybody who's joining in. Tracy is sharing. She said this month for her has been mind-blowing, which is cool to hear. But all of you who are joining in the live, we'd love to hear how your month is going. And if you have questions for Danné or myself throughout, just let us know. But yeah, Danné, I think, and Mark's sharing, he said for the month, for him, it's about learning and growth. So welcome in, and we've got someone from Alberta, Canada, so another Canadian. I love it. So welcome to all the northern people. So my next question for you, Danné, is like, what were the steps? Like, I'm always curious how you're led to the healing, through the natural process when you start, in a different process. So what were your steps to coming out of that, with your daughter and with yourself?
Well, I had a girlfriend when I opened up my wellness center in my hometown of Rossland and Trail, British Columbia. I had a girlfriend of mine. Let's go back a little bit first. With my daughter, because of the impact that the pharmaceutical medications had on her to control her seizures, I researched. That's what I do. That's what I've done in my whole professional career. And I found out about the works of Dr. Daniel Amen, who's the brain doctor on PBS, very well known. And I've spent time with Dr. Amen in training and things like that. He uses SPECT imaging to determine what areas of the brain are working properly or not working properly. So through contrast dye that's injected into your arm, it's a single computed emission proton tomography. That's what that does. And it's a little bit of an expensive process. I've gone through it. I've had it done myself because of my brain concussions that I had done with hockey. But that's where my research initially began. Fast forward to about 2008 or 9, I had a girlfriend whose daughter was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And as a result, she had again delved into research to find out a more holistic approach to helping her daughter, and found out about the works of Dr. Walsh out of Chicago. And she shared with me that information and just phoned him up out of the blue. He was the most personalized, most compassionate human being that you could ever imagine on the planet, and talked to her. And as a result, through our collaboration, I decided to, because I used to bring in speakers from around the world to come and speak and put on seminars at my wellness center. And so I brought Dr. Walsh in to speak on this. And as a result, there was a medical doctor in Castlegar, British Columbia, which is just about 20 minutes from my hometown, that became trained in advanced nutrient therapy by Dr. Walsh. She went down for additional training in, I believe, North Carolina or something. Dr. Walsh had training. And so that's how kind of my journey all started, just reaching out and bringing in these individuals and learning as much as I could from them about a more holistic, natural approach to healing for brain health, mental wellness, and addictions.
That's amazing. What are some of the, are there any specific steps that you took or are still taking? Like, what are some of the things that you do? To give some context, I have had a lot of neurological issues in my own journey, a lot of it coming from my own genetic structure, having challenges with things like mold and different things. And so I've also been on this interesting journey. And so I love Dr. Terry Wahls, who of course created the Wahls protocol and talks about healing the brain and getting herself, out of a zero gravity chair as an MS diagnosis, out into the world doing what she does every day. So I'm curious what your steps are for healing.
Well, they're pretty simple. I mean, that's in my journey through getting this program and having this program at my wellness center, I acted as kind of the education individual in Canada, because none of this is available in Canada whatsoever. And I worked with DHA Laboratories, one of the laboratories that Dan Hansen runs in Chicago, that Dr. Walsh worked directly with. And I brought the lab portion to my wellness center to be able to do the blood and urine testing that's necessary in order to the physician can put forth prescribed nutrient therapy for that individual. So that was a labor of love, because I tell you, what I went through was incredible. I hired a phlebotomist to come in and do the blood draws, and we did the urine samples. And in rural BC, anyways, you can't get dry ice, and all these samples have to be shipped on dry ice.
Oh,
so
wow.
After we had done the draws, I then had to drive an hour to Nelson, British Columbia, to pick up dry ice, bring it back, get my samples on dry ice. And then, because we lived only like 10 minutes from the Canada-US border, I would then drive these samples an hour across the border to Colville, Washington, to ship them out overnight to the Chicago lab. So it was quite the process.
God,
and I was the guinea pig in doing all this stuff. So, but it worked very successfully. We had people coming from all over Western Canada to my wellness center for testing. And I worked with, like I said, a local physician that just did wonders in helping individuals diagnosed with schizophrenia, with dementia, Alzheimer's, with severe postpartum depression. So it pretty much involves, that's one piece of the puzzle. I mean, there's a whole process with regards to, cognitive therapy, spiritual work, and things like that for complete healing and recovery. But once you get your brain functioning to its optimal level, determining what nutrients you're lacking or what nutrients you have too much in your system, it just, within probably 2 weeks to 6 months, sometimes a little longer for individual cases, they're a little bit more complex, complete resolution of the condition. And most often people can even come or wean slowly off their prescription medications with the assistance of the consulting physician.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What have you noticed? What are the similarities when it comes to nutrients? Like, are there things that are there any patterns?
There's like, when Dr. Walsh was doing his research, he actually studied, he went into the prison system in Chicago and studied the individuals in the hardcore prison system, really bad behavior disorders, and wanted to know why they were like that. So that's initially how he started his research. And he had worked with Dr. Carl Pfeiffer, who's very well known around the world for his research in schizophrenia and pyrrole disorder with regards to individuals who have been diagnosed with schizophrenia. So that's how initially Dr. Walsh started his work, and found out over time that these individuals that were in the prison system, they would do really good for a period of maybe 5 years after they would be released, and then they would fall back and be jailed again. So what he discovered is the best approach was to work with children, because a lot of the individuals apparently in the prison system were actually from amazingly grounded, sound, productive families. And they just, mothers would often say that they had this one child that was just different from all the rest of her children. And so then Dr. Walsh started doing research and studies in children, in assisting them with their mental health issues or behavioral disorders. And lo and behold, some incredible results. I mean, he has blood and urine samples from over 30,000 individuals that he's tested. He's been doing this for over 30 years. When he came and spoke at the Wellness Center in Rossland, he was in his late 80s.
Oh, wow.
And he's still going strong. That's what's incredible.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's incredible. I mean, he's still teaching. His goal is to teach 1,500 physicians around the world before he retires. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So I want to talk a little bit, you talked about, the spiritual process of healing. And so tell us a little bit about what some of those aspects or processes are around the spiritual piece.
Well, that's one area. My background has been so science-based my whole life, and in the dental profession and things like that, I've had a huge affinity for research. That I knew I was always different ever since I was born, and I knew I had that spiritual connection. But it's really been only probably in the last 10 years that I've really embarked upon my spiritual journey and my healing gifts and things like that. One of my goals at this point in time, since I kind of feel like I have that package of my science for assisting individuals with brain health and mental wellness, I'm now embarking on my spiritual journey, and I've put out to the universe there to bring a mentor shaman into my life, because I know I've been called spiritually to be a shaman. And so I've just been doing some initiation rituals at this moment, and just waiting for that teacher to appear.
Oh, I love it so much. Well, and the thing about shamanism is it's all those who are called to shamanism have been through trauma. I mean, that's really, and trauma births the shaman, and I think that that's so powerful. And there's always that moment in the trauma where that your life's going to be different. Do you have a moment that you can think of that was like that moment where you knew that life would never be the same again in a good way?
In a good way, I would say probably my first spiritual emergency. Yeah, I knew that I was stepping into a different dimension at that point in time. I didn't know where it was going to take me. And I didn't know my journey would lead me down this pathway. I mean, at 13 years of age, I wanted to be a dental hygienist. I mean, I grew up in a dental family. My dad was a medical doctor, dentist, and I wanted to be a hygienist. That's what I was going to be until I retired. And never did I think that I would embark on my journey with regards to brain health and mental wellness. But having the experience that I have had, starting with my daughter, and then of course my son, was a fentanyl addict as well. About 5 years ago, he announced that. When I tell you, my experience was nothing compared to what I experienced emotionally when he announced that to me as a mother. That's when I truly turned inward to do my own healing journey through that process, because you're at a total loss. There's nothing you can do. And just sorting out, what is tough love? Like how do you administer? Like, what's the practical steps that you go forward with? How do you do tough love with your son? And I really delved into Dr. Gabor Mate's work and his videos, and I had been to a number of his lectures in Rossland and the Lower Mainland in Vancouver, BC. But that's when my inner work really began, was probably 5 years ago when my son had shared that with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of your when you went to dive in, because I think that's, as you know, that's a lot of what we do here on Buddhist Biohackers, dive in. What did that look like for you? Did you get out a journal? Did you find some books? What was that process like for you diving in?
Diving into that whole process, actually, it was very interesting, because not only am I a mental health warrior, I'm also a cancer warrior. I was diagnosed a couple of years ago with breast cancer. And so it's the first time in my life since I was 13 that I was off from work and I didn't work.
Mm.
So I had a lot of time to do a lot of reading. And with the current health situation that's going on worldwide at the moment, that's how I found you. and started watching a lot of different spiritual gurus on YouTube, and had the time to watch that, delve in, read, journal. I love to dance. I do a lot of dancing, and yeah. So my journey's just beginning, I feel, in that area of my life, and I'm just looking forward to the opportunities that it presents to me when as I go through this adventure. It's another adventure that my life is just taking another turning point at 61 years.
Yeah, it's amazing how many awakenings and new beginnings we can have in one lifetime, isn't it?
Oh, incredible. Absolutely incredible. You think you're getting ready to retire, and oh no, Spirit has another plan for you. So
It totally does.
so
Oh,
true. So true. Yeah. But the stuff that keeps me going is when you see individuals heal through this process. When young people of all ages say, it's really not your fault, and you're not a bad kid, and there's something going on that can be helped. And so I think that gives individuals such hope and healing in that process, because when it comes to conventional medicine, I don't think they give you kind of that treatment plan, or journey that you're given more of the negative side. There's no cure. You're this way for life, and especially individuals recognizing that there is, for complete healing, the mind, body, spirit, there is that spiritual connection, and you are going through an awakening process, and just how to bring that into perspective and ground yourself in that. And that's what I think is super, super important, is just keeping yourself grounded in that.
yeah.
And knowing that the universe has a greater plan for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's so much power in understanding that we have control is definitely not the right word, but we have this ability to transform our molecular structures. Like, we do not have to accept our body the way it is. And so the research and the work that you're doing around brain health and mental wellness is so powerful. And I've lived it with my neurological symptom. Like, I was told I was going to have these issues, and they're gone. I have no neurological symptoms. And it all came through the process of my changing my diet and really understanding the body, hence the Buddhist biohacker, right? Like, biohacking. And, it's funny, Danné, because what I keep hearing from Spirit is we're not biohackers. It's biotransformation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hacking the system, it's transforming it. And that, and I get goosebumps, because that is the work. That is the work of the future. That is the work of my Institute AI. That is the work of what you're doing with your research and your clinic, is teaching people that you actually have the power to transform yourself at a cellular level. And it is spiritual, because consciousness impacts those cells. what do you want to say about that? Because I'm sure you have a lot to say because you've been on this journey. Like, I want to hear what you have to say.
So what you're saying is so true. Even when I began my professional journey and my studies, I always knew that our bodies could heal themselves under the right conditions. Let's get them under the right conditions to heal. And whatever modality that will be, just don't limit yourself. Keep an open mind, because there's always something new on the horizon that's coming down. But I always look at, the medical model is do no harm, right? So let's find approaches that will benefit our bodies in order to do that transformative change in them, for healing. And especially when it comes to brain health. I mean, there's more neurons and neural connections in your brain than there are stars in the universe. That just blows my mind thinking of that concept, right? So, you do have the ability to heal yourself. Yeah, just keep an open mind. Do your due diligence, research, reach out. I mean, that's why I came out of semi-retirement. Over this past year, I saw the exponential rise in addictions and mental health issues and suicides. It broke my heart to see what was going on around the world. And so I came out of semi-retirement, started my company again, and hopefully I can be here to assist individuals that want to go on that journey of healing and recovery. There's just so much hope on the horizon for that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, hope and support. I mean, there's real science and support, that's out there to help you transform the challenges that you have. It's really, I always think of it, and this is part of, the spiritual component, but I always think, we kind of crash land into these bodies from these star systems, and it's a little awkward for some of us to be here. And that manifests in these very physical, real experiences that we have, and being able to come through that and understand how to heal yourself and how to step into a space to do what you came here to do, because everyone came here with these magical gifts. And I love what everybody's sharing here. Joanne says she's finding this very interesting. So welcome in, Joanne, and welcome to Buddhist Biohacker. And Tracy is saying, you are so strong, Danné. So glad you're sharing. I would love to speak with you offline. Thank you for the support, reassurance, and research you're providing for us. So thank you, Tracy, and thank you to everybody who's listening. And yeah, it's just so powerful. So tell us a little bit about what you are doing and what you're offering since you've come back out into the world. What are you doing?
Well, let me share with you what conventional medicine labels me. Conventional medicine in psychiatry labels me bipolar, but I've had many different labels throughout that process since age 40. Depending on the flavor of the day of that psychiatry physician or nurse in the emergency room, that's the label that they'll assign you. Scientifically, I'm actually undermethylated and have a pyrrole disorder. So that's the lab testing and that's involved in finding the nutrients that will help support you through your healing process. So being undermethylated, methylation, what that involves, it's used by your cells to turn off and on gene expression. Okay, so it's used for, it'll impact everything physiologically or psychologically in you, such as mood, your sleep, your memory, or your concentration. So that's what methylation is all about. And you're either over-methylated or under-methylated. So for me, I'm under-methylated. So as a result, I take a natural product called SAMI, as opposed to psychiatric medication that helps to balance my neurotransmitters in my brain. Now, pyrrole disorder that I also have, is actually what that involves is a genetic aberration that you deplete for. It's used for, pyrroles are used for the synthesis of hemoglobin or red blood cells in your body. And when you have a pyrrole disorder, you through that process and the excretion of pyrroles through your urine, they have an affinity for zinc and B6, two very important nutrients in your body that are so important for your health. But that genetic aberration depletes it from my body. So I will always have to be on zinc and vitamin B6 the rest of my life in order to correct that nutrient aberration that I have. So, and the other thing that I wanted to say is that one of the easiest things to treat, Dr. Walsh has said, is depression and anxiety. Mm-hmm. Some of the easiest things to treat through advanced nutrient therapy. So a little bit more challenging in cases of bipolar or individuals with schizophrenia, but it can be done, and I've seen it firsthand. I'm a walking example of it. Mm-hmm. I'm a walking example of it. So yeah, there's a lot more natural ways to address these issues. And some people, you know what, it's not that I'm opposed to psychiatric medication. Sometimes there's needed because we allow ourselves, particularly as human beings, to get ourselves into states of crisis. And those types of medications are needed in order to calm the individual down so it can, they can get on a journey of healing. But where I find, it falters is that you're on this medication, prescription medication for life, and the side effects can be horrendous. And I think that's why people, especially individuals diagnosed with those conditions, have a difficult time staying on their medications for that reason. But I love individuals that have been so-called labeled schizophrenia, because I figure they have one foot on the earth plane and their head in the heavens, and they're just the most amazing, gifted individuals that I've ever met in my entire life. Yeah, amazing.
I agree. I've worked with quite a few as a psychic. You get a lot of people who come in and are challenged in those areas, and they're always just incredible people. And you definitely lighten me up, because I also have a methylation challenge. I mean, that's been my challenge as well. So when you guys hear out there in the audience MTHFR, you hear about methylation. So I'm compound heterozygous MTHFR. And so like you, I'm undermethylated, and I have this very complex genetic system where it's really tricky. I have to trick my body quite often to not know what it's doing, because I have, and I'm sure you've seen this, and maybe you have this within yourself, Danné, but it's like I have some genetic mutations that do one thing and others that do the opposite. So it's like, well, you can't really have green tea, but then this other thing needs the green tea. So you're kind of always like, whatever it is, you're having to trick it. And methylation is tricky because, like, for me, I can't just take folate. It's too much. And that's actually what creates emotional stress for me.
Absolutely.
I'm undermethylated, overmethylated. So I tend to overdo my body. And so it's really potent when you learn this information, isn't it? Because just in diet alone, I've been able to eliminate all sorts of symptoms. I've cured my Hashimoto's. I've eliminated my neurological symptoms. Any of my mood swings and all of the things that were going on with my physical body, just poof, it's like, it's amazing. Just like you said, it really does shift things really quickly when you understand the body. And it reminds me of the Dalai Lama. He always said in all the teachings, he would say, you have to understand science in order to understand the nature of reality. He would always talk about, in Buddhism, you're trying to reach, this clear light mind, or this ability to see reality for what it really is. But he said, you could never understand that unless you understand science. And wouldn't you agree, Danné, that that's exactly, you have to understand how the body works in order to support it naturally. That's
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a key factor, because your diet, like you said, in the impact that it had on you. For example, an individual that has a metal metabolism issue, like they on copper toxic, um, things like chocolate contain high levels of chocolate. Those poor people,
Yeah.
not recommended that they have chocolate. Especially
Yeah.
during PMS or their monthly cycles, that it can hugely impact. So yes, diet has a huge, but yes, understanding the science, and I think that's the one thing when it comes to brain health and mental wellness. It wasn't until I learned about Dr. Walsh's work and advanced nutrient therapy that I really understood how neurotransmitters worked, and nutrients really worked in the body in order to assist in making sure that those neurotransmitters in your brain function at optimal capacity. So it just understanding science is vital, and that's what, in my educational consulting, that's what I do to assist people through that process, because often they can go to these physicians and their time is limited with them, and they don't get the full explanations on what is really going on. And that's why I decided to come up with this educational work with me concept, to help them through this journey, and hopefully through this process, as I learn a little bit more about technology, I'll be able to do a little bit more podcasts and Zoom programs to be able to support individuals through that journey and process.
Yeah, because there's not enough information. I mean, there's a lot of information, but you really have to go look for it. And obviously, there's some information that we can't get in the mainstream right now. So it's a tricky business. And, when it comes to neurotransmitters, I think if I've seen anything, when I do an OAT test, which is an organic acids test with my patients, I don't even know somebody who has proper neurotransmitter. I mean, if they're always burnout. It seems like we live in the world of burning out our neurotransmitters. Have you seen that too? I mean, is that something?
Absolutely. Well, and when, as Dr. Walsh in his research says, your biochemistry is determined at conception. So who we should be educating and working with are women of childbearing age, or that are planning to have families, so they get themselves well prior to conceiving. I mean, that's a whole other area that you can work with in order to encourage the upcoming generations that they be born with more healthier functioning neurotransmitters. I mean, that's the key, is prevention. Absolutely. Yeah. So, it's a process and it takes time. I've been on this journey for over 25 years, and I keep learning every day. There's always new protocols and new lab tests that are coming out, new discoveries. I know Dr. Walsh just released a paper a few years ago talking about the reason, more information with regards to individuals diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So there's just always something on the horizon. And that's what makes science exciting, in my opinion. There's always change and discovery to new and better ways and different approaches to treatment.
Yeah, I agree. It's like not only new stuff, but in the world of quantum science and what they're doing with, in the biohacking community with our cells and how to transform our bodies. I mean, the thing that always sticks out to me that's most profound is that our bodies were meant to last 180 years. Like when you think of like an appliance that has a lifespan, if you take care of it, right? If we took care of these bodies and our environment, we can live to be 180. Just thinking about that. And I think we're headed there. Don't you? I mean, I think we're headed into this space where we can transform our structures and live very long.
Well, I've even told my children I'm going to haunt them for hundreds of years. So I believe we are coming into that time of transformation. Yes, definitely. And who knew that 2020 would be the beginning time of that vision of that huge transformation. I knew, like, Spirit had told me in my probably 20s that this was going to happen in my lifetime, and it was going to happen in my 6th decade of life. I knew that. I just didn't know how it was going to happen. I knew there was going to be huge change on the planet. But so there are exciting times ahead. Grounding yourself and keeping yourself well. Especially brain health and mental wellness, which unfortunately is on the rise. And it's been my experience that there isn't a lot of help within the community setting necessarily. And it's difficult. People have a hard time reaching out and finding those services that are available to them. So hopefully through this broadcast and through interconnections, we'll be able to get this information out, because it's not well known about. Big pharma has always had, nutraceuticals can't be patented, so big pharma can't make huge dollars. They're billions of dollars on this type of treatment program, so that's why it's not well known, and it's not taught in our medical schools and nursing schools. It's not taught. And the only way, in my vision, is to get this information out, because it is available. Have 2 doctors in Canada that I'm working with, because again, you have a lot more access to more advanced healthcare in the States. In Canada, we're a little bit, we're not quite there yet. So so hopefully through this process of education and collaboration, that we can make leaps and bounds in the recovery of mental health issues.
Absolutely. Well, and I hope that, I hope and think that we will continue to collaborate as well, because there's a lot of work to be done in this area. And I feel like, it takes all of us to step up and support the education of this, teaching people this information and how to transform your structures. And there's not many doing it. There's not many doing it. One of my favorite shamans is Alberto Villoldo, and he wrote a book, The Heart of the Shaman, but he talks about how to grow a new body. And that's a huge part of the work that he's doing right now. Our entire body regenerates in 1 year. So if you think about it, if you change your ways, your diet and your life, and I'm living proof. If you saw a before picture and an after picture of me over the last decade, you wouldn't, I look like 20 years younger than I did 10 years ago. And
Wow.
I'm 100 pounds lighter. And it had nothing to do with like a diet. It had to do with understanding my body, doing the inner work, and coming out of it. And I know that that's what you've done as well. So I hope you come back, because I feel like we have a lot we could talk about and share.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being on your program and being able to share this information. Yes, I would love that invitation to come back and work with you. There's so much work to do in this area of healthcare, and it's probably one of the most not paid attention to areas of healthcare, and yet it's the mainframe computer of our entire body. And so when this functions well, guess what? The rest of your body functions well. And I think that's, being in dentistry, it's always been my focus, above the neck. Unfortunately, medicine has cut the neck, head and neck off from the rest of the body. So, so it would be a pleasure to be on your program again and share some more information.
I would love it. I think there's lots to talk about. And before we do close, I want to give you some space to share how people can connect with you, what you're offering right now,
Okay.
just so that they can find you, and if they want the help and the support, what they need to do.
Okay, well, of course, they can reach out to my website, and they can email me. They can send me an email from my website. I also have started a newsletter. This month is April. April is Dental Health Month, believe it or not. So I did a complimentary newsletter that's posted on my website about the oral care if you're on prescription medications for brain health and mental wellness, to ease the discomfort that can occur because of those medications. And so they can sign up on the Dandelion Tribe onto my newsletter, subscribe for that. And if they do, I would like to offer Dr. Walsh's book to the 61st person that signs up through your program as a gift, as my gift to them. This is an excellent book. For some people, it's a little bit scientific, and so, but it's an excellent resource. The book that Dr. Walsh has written on advanced nutrient therapy. So, and my offerings include consultations to assist them through this process and journey. They can get that information off my website of what all my services entail. I'm also offering energy healing. I've been doing energy healing since 2007. And I've done reflexology, massage, besides doing the oral stuff. And so I've decided to offer that as well. And this beginning in May, I'm going to be doing a purple ribbon campaign in memory of my mom. I've set up the Patricia Healing Foundation, which is a nonprofit to assist individuals with the diagnostics of lab and things like that for advanced nutrient therapy for those on a minimal income. So they can apply for assistance, financial assistance through that program. And we hope to be able to help individuals that cannot afford all the labs to be done for advanced nutrient therapy. And it's not outrageous, I mean, labs to get the blood work done might be about anywhere between $300 and $500 Canadian. So, it's not exponential for having this type of work done. Some people can have it covered through their extended health benefits, but so those are the offerings that I have on my website. And sign up for my newsletter. I hope to publish information on this educational aspect and approach to mental health and wellness.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Danné. This has really been incredible. And this is just the beginning, I feel. And I look forward to staying connected with you. And thank you to everybody who's been watching today. I'm sure you're going to have questions. We do have our Buddhist Biohacker Forum in the Ajatakasa social media app. I can never say that all at once.
That's a mouthful.
Social media. So please, we do have our own social media. It is free of algorithms and tracing and censorship and all those things. So come join us over there. It's a free community. It's free to download and join. If you haven't subscribed to Buddhist Biohacker, please do that as well. When you go into Ajatakasa, just follow the Buddhist Biohacker group and we can keep this conversation going in there. I would love that because I'm sure there's lots of questions. There's a lot to talk about. When you talk about methylation, that alone could be just days and days and days and days of discussion. So anyway, thank you again. And thank you to everybody out there. And we will see you guys. We're going to be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. for just a special show about how to get laser focused with your spiritual business. So I'm going to switch it up tomorrow. So thank you, Danné, so much.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
Thanks.